We don't know how the fires got started. Some people were saying arson, much like they were saying arson in Canada. And then the government was saying, no, it's not arson. And then lo and behold, they arrest people for arson. The Nova Scotia firefight, the Nova Scotia fire was started by arson. And they say, all right, well, even if it started by arson, it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't as a result of climate crisis, climate change. Bullshit, by the way. If you had forest management done properly, the arson arguably wouldn't get there. If you had water in the fire hydrants, maybe you could have had a little bit more than 0% contained. So you hear some rumors that it's arson. I also heard, or at least read, people asserting that it was heavy winds blew down the fire pole, the electrical poles that started the fire, and it went out of control. Okay, I can tell you what I don't have is video evidence that it was wind blowing over fire poles. What I can tell you that I do have, these are this is. Are we looking at the same thing here? What I can tell you that we do have. This is coming from John Rocker. I hope he's not off his rocker. Bada bing, bada boom. Former MLB pitcher, your favorite Florida man, MAGA business, John Rockwell. John Rocker Braves 1990s at gmail.com. He put this video. I don't know if he took this video. It's coming from the Fire Photo Girl. And it is very loud. The homeless were starting fires in California today, possibly being the cause for the mass wildfires in LA. Another reason why the mentally deranged need to be taken off the streets. This is coming from the Fire Photo Girl, who wrote, unbelievable, I am literally fighting with a homeless person who is lighting fires. She told me she is doing a good thing. Colton jurisdiction. Fire Photo Girl, breaking news, photographer, videographer, California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. It's very interesting, and this is going to make people connect other dots that may or may not exist. You imagine if you wanted to have a little bit of eco-terrorism, and government officials who now know that they have mentally ill individuals. If you've been to California, the homelessness is a big problem. Drug addiction is a big problem. If you had activist organizations or activist government officials who really wanted to make people understand just how bad the climate crisis is, so you go and get a bunch of homeless people to really, really start some fires mentally. Say, you're doing a good thing. Start the fires. People will understand how bad the climate crisis is. And then after all this is burnt to the ground, we can rebuild a 15-minute city and it'll be fire compliant and ecologically sensitive. If people are going to put those two and two together, if they want to connect those dots. At the very least, and I don't know Fire Photo Girl, that seems to be evidence of a homeless person, or at least a person, starting a fire on a windy day in the brush of California. I take that one with a grain of salt because I don't know who Fire Photo Girl is, but I know who Anthony Huberman is, or Andrew Huberman, if that's what his first name. I know who Andrew Huberman is. My wife, she follows Andrew Huberman. She's like, Dave, did you see this? Andrew Huberman.
We're at 302 Pico, and people are lighting fires now. You can see that lit a fire. These guys, not all the people there, but some of those guys lit that fire, and these guys they're actually, the trees caught fire, and then the palms are catching fire. So civilians are now lighting fires down in the so-called, flats around Santa Monica, Venice. So be safe out there. Fire department's been dispatched. We don't have enough water to put this thing out.
Oh, why don't you have water?
We're supposedly on the way.
No shade.
We're at 302 Pico.
Why don't they have water? We'll get to that in a second.
People are lighting fires now. You can see that lit a fire. These guys, not all the people there, but some of those guys lit that fire, and these guys they're actually, the trees caught fire, and then the palms are catching fire. So civilians are now lighting fires down in the so-called, flats around.
Now, what I was asking, I didn't DM Huberman. I just wanted to make sure that was his video that he recorded and not a voiceover, although I don't think he did. I'm just neurotic. Let's see if he replied. I just want to make sure that that's his voice that he recorded the video. But bottom line, there are people lighting fires now, and there's seemingly good video evidence of it. Whether or not it was the initial cause, we'll never know. We don't have the video of the initial cause or of the fire poles being blown over and starting it naturally. So where are we at right now, people? Fresh water being diverted for the smelt. In home insurance, fire insurance being canceled en masse. Apparent arson. Forget the taxes. Gavin Newsom is very sorry for your loss, Los Angeles. The Sacramento smelt needed your fresh water. Ukraine needed your firefighting equipment. And you needed your first this is not even me quoting it. Your first LGBTQ plus fire chief. Don't worry, she's getting it done. You couldn't make this crap up if you tried. Gavin Newsom standing in front of his burning disaster of his own incompetence, corruption, malfeasance, lecturing Trump on trying to politicize it. Drought not over for some California farmers thanks to questionable Delta smelt regulations. This was the article I wanted to bring up, but there. And by the way, I had to fact check this because I saw it. People make the claim. And you know that this one chapped the asses of Newsweek. They had to confirm as true a number of fire departments in California did donate firefighting supplies to be sent to Ukraine in 2022. The state has also sent medical supplies and protective gear to help first responders in Ukraine. What was the other one here? Oh, yeah, there we go. This was it from Pride. Amid Palisades fire, Los Angeles first LGBTQ plus fire chief is proving lesbians get it done. I swear to all that is holy, I thought that was parody when I first read it. I went to read the article. This is from the article. We're going to get into Christian Crowley. Crowley is the first woman and first openly LGBTQ plus person to hold her post. She's married to retired firefighter Holland Bullock. I don't give a crap in the best possible way. Her nomination came after former fire chief Ralph Terrazas stepped down amid growing scrutiny for not doing enough to stop sexist and racist behavior within the Los Angeles Fire Department. Mayor Eric Garcetti said at the time that he nominated Crowley to the position not due to her gender, but due to her abilities and skill with public safety challenges. This is reality, people. Hold on a second. I want to get the look at this Politico here. Check this out. Okay, that's it. Save and exit. Donald Trump Jr. finds a way to blame Ukraine for spread of Los Angeles fires. But firefighters said the real reasons were lack of personnel to combat out-of-control blazes in South California. It's a massive circle of finger pointing. They're going to actually say, yes, we've been diverting fresh water for the smell, but that didn't really have, that wasn't the directly caused to the fact that they ran dry in the fire hydrants. No, it's not true that they donated firefighting equipment to Ukraine. Okay, it's true, but it didn't have the impact. It was lack of personnel. Oh, okay. Who do we blame for that then? Climate crisis? Donald Trump Jr., the eldest son of President-elect, dragged Ukraine into I think it's Bongino who calls it the Republicans pounce story. I don't know if he coined the term. They blame Trump Jr. for pouncing on the incompetence and corruption that led to disaster, loss of property, and loss of life. It's not the fact that they did it. It's the fact that Republicans and Don Jr., the big bad boogeyman, is pouncing on it. Los Angeles County Fire Department sent a plane full of surplus like boots, hoses, nozzles, yada, 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 to Ukraine. But the donation was in 2022. No. This year, Los Angeles Fire County Chief Anthony Marone reported a lack of personnel and had to request help from nearby counties. So you donate gear. I don't know. I guess you're donating it because you don't have enough personnel to make use of it. And you don't have enough personnel for a crisis. And you MFers come out and blame climate crisis first and foremost, and then blame Trump for highlighting the fact that you are all a bunch of deadly, incompetent buffoons. There are 9,000 firefighters in Los Angeles County between the country's fire department, 29 county, yada, 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 which is still not enough to address all the fires in the region, Marone told the New York Times on Wednesday. Hey, here's a question. What the hell are our tax dollars going to? Yours, not mine. I don't pay taxes in California. What the hell are your tax dollars going for? Fox News reported that firefighters were unable to contain fires raging since earlier this week because of strong winds, extreme dry weather, lack of visibility, and outdated water supply systems in the region. Outdated water supply systems in the region. When you first say it's not happening, okay, it's happening, but it's not our fault that it's happening. When people were saying that the fire hydrants were running dry, I was like, no, don't jump on that. It might, they're not running dry. Okay, if they're running dry, it's only because the central power stations have burned down, so they're not able to. No. You're paying tax dollars out the ass so you could be governed, restricted from doing things with your own property, and they can squander your tax dollars building what? A kilometer of the high-speed rail, the foundation for it, so they can divert it to protect the Sacramento Delta smelt? Trump lashed out. Oh, he got the lash out. He lashed out at California Governor Newsom on Wednesday, calling him Newscum, virtually apocalyptic in a Truth Social post. It is a part of a year-long blazing feud. Oh, yeah. Has had with the Democrats in California, a solidly blue state, hopefully not for long. I mean, I don't know who's going to be left there afterwards. About forest management processes and wildlife containment plans. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, first responders were extinguishing fires and evacuating dozens of victims from yada yada after. Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about it, guys. At least your donations to Ukraine have gone to good use. The Trump camp has derided Ukraine, criticizing its president Volodymyr Zelensky as a salesman and threatening to halt American military aid to Kyiv, while it has been resisting Russia's full. Yeah, look at this. It's unbelievable. The piece turns into a puff piece to defend the response in Ukraine. By the way, what's going on in Ukraine? $500 million to Ukraine as California burns? I mean, you could make this up, but no one will believe it. There we go. Joe Biden's final $500 million to Ukraine package leaves $3.8 billion on the table for Trump. $500 million. What date is this? Oh, yeah, that's right. Updated. January 9th. California burns, Lahaina burns, East Palestine, I don't even know, it burns and then is subject to toxicity. North Carolina is leveled. Remember when North Carolina got leveled and then Kamala Harris literally the weekend of announces that there was $150 million to Lebanon to deal with the aftermath of Israel's war with Hamas? They fund, they give aid to Israel to wage the war, military arms, whatever. Then they give aid to Gaza to help the victims of that military incursion. Then they give more money to Lebanon to deal with the results of that. They're financing, funding, and squandering American taxpayer dollars on both ends of that conflict, while Americans literally die as a result of natural disasters at home. And they do it's like, and no shame, no second thoughts in terms of the timing of it. Maybe hold it off a little bit. So they're donating stuff to Ukraine. They've got DEI hires. So you got your first lesbian fire chief. Good for you. Who is she? Did we read this one? Who is Kristen Crowley? Los Angeles fire chief faces wave of anger. You can't get mad at her. That would be misogynist and homophobic. Let's hear this.
Experiencing an extreme fire weather condition with red flag alert. At the time of the fire, the relative humidity was 12 and the winds were approximately 25 miles an hour with gusts up to 50 miles per hour.
Oh my
Currently,
goodness.
the fire is at 1,261 acres and growing based on aerial reconnaissance. The fire is being fueled by a combination of strong winds and surrounding topography, which is making it extremely challenging for our personnel that are assigned to this incident.
I'm just like, we'll continue in a second. How many days have you been on the job for? The topography, does that include the debris and the brush that hasn't been cleared as a result of forest management? Just out of curiosity. Is topography sort of a euphemism for failed forest management policy? Yeah, it's being frustrated by the topography that is California.
By no stretch of the imagination are we out of the woods. You heard a chief say 10 p.m. tonight till 5 a.m. tomorrow will be peak winds. And having just quite literally an hour or so ago gone up the canyon and saw firsthand the impact of these swirling winds and the number of structures that are destroyed.
They got water
there. Not a few. Many structures already destroyed. And the fact that people were still not evacuated, still did not heed the warning. We're just coming down the...
Might it be because traffic on an ordinary day in LA is crippling and debilitating, let alone when people are abandoning their vehicles on the highway? Oh my goodness. They didn't heed the warning to leave where they couldn't really get anywhere anyhow.
Canyon.
It's your fault for not heeding the warning when those who did heed the warning were forced to abandon their vehicles on the street due to the fires.
Is a reminder of how serious this moment is and how important it is you listen to these evacuation orders.
Now let's go to, let me close this because we don't want that anymore. Good. Noxious. Okay. Los Angeles Fire Chief Kristen Crowley is facing a wave of anger amid the wildfires. Yada, yada. It comes as authorities have said the 4 fires, which have burned more than 4,000 acres, have not yet been contained. Some firefighters have also reported hydrants being dry. In any other country on earth, these people would go to jail if they were lucky, preventing them from being able to stop the blazes, according to reports. Such reports have prompted some social media users to slam Crowley's leadership of the fire department. Republicans pounce. How dare you pounce on the fact that fire hydrants are dry? Newsweek contacted Crowley's office for email. Why it matters? Well, so far 2 deaths. That's on the hands of Newsom, Crowley, and whoever else is. There's another woman, Karen. We got to get to her in a second. 2 deaths have been reported about the fires. The blazes remain a threat to human health. No shit, Sherlock. Particulate matter is bad. This means everyone may begin to experience some adverse effects such as difficulty breathing, throat irritation. Oh, by the way, at least they're telling you now. I mean, it's at least 9/11 after this. If the air is fine, come down, and 20 years later, people are dying of cancer, and the government can't compensate those people or even allow them to get the medical treatment that they need. But my goodness, I guarantee you, Zelensky and his government are getting the finest of medical treatment with American taxpayer dollars. Sensitive people with older issues, yada, yada, fine. You can't breathe that air. It's terrible. 4 fires currently burning. It's burnt 1,000 acres, yada, yada. In the last hour or so, this is an older article, a 4th smaller fire, the Tyler fire, has been reported. How did they start? Authorities say none of the blazes have been contained. There is no possibility of bringing them under control. Oh, that's totally fine. It's totally acceptable. Your job is to do what you cannot do, and you have failed despite all of the taxes that you've taken, despite all of the years of prep, despite all of the warnings that you've had. When insurance companies start canceling policies because of increased risk and the inability to increase their premiums because of some state law, you know that there's a problem. And if you do nothing about it, And then when the problem explodes, pun intended, and you don't have water to put it out, yeah, you don't get to say there was nothing we could have done. Yeah. The Los Angeles Times also reported that some firefighters battling the blazes said on internal radio systems that hydrants were coming up dry, meaning they didn't have enough water to put out the fire. LA Department of Water and Power spokesman confirmed reports of reduced water flow from hydrants, but provided no details on the number or scope of the issue. In a statement to Los Angeles Times, the agency said crews were working to maintain water supplies, which rely on water tanks. Who's Kristen Crowley? Kristen Crowley is the first woman and first openly gay LGBTQ plus person to hold her post. She's married to retired fighter. Her nomination came out, this part I read in the thing, quote, "I look for who's best, not just who makes history," end quote, Garcetti said at a press conference. Bullshit. If you even have to say that she's making history, you're looking for the fact that you want to make history. You made history, Garcetti. Congrats. Because the protection of our city first and foremost has to go to the human being who is best prepared to lead. But let me be clear, you're about to get lied to. When someone says, let me be clear, go back and pull up my tweet. It's true and time and time again. Let me be clear. That is Kristen Crowley. And the progress is incredibly important and long. And this progress is incredibly important and long overdue. When she was nominated to her position in 2022, she had been with the fire department for 22 years, having been a firefighter, paramedic, engineer, fire inspector, captain, battalion chief, assistant chief, fire marshal, yada. She became LA's first female fire marshal in 2016. When she took the firefighter exam in the late 1990s, she ranked among the top 50 of 1,600 applicants. Crowley accepted the nomination, saying, "As fire chief, if confirmed, I vow to take a strategic and balanced approach to ensure we meet the needs of the community we serve. We will focus our efforts on increasing our operational effectiveness, enhancing firefighter safety and well-being, and fully commit to fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture within the LAFD." Holy sweet, merciful hell. Well, enjoy your diverse, equitable, and inclusive culture, because it's left your homes burning. LA. Commentator Rogan O'Handley, also known as DC Drano, put it on Twitter. On the left is the LA fire chief allowing her city to be burnt down with no water and fire hydrants. On the right is the New Orleans police chief who allowed a terrorist attack on Bourbon Street without barriers. DEI is quite literally getting people killed. Bring back merit. And I presume they're talking about the, who was it there? The superintendent, the constable, the superintendent, Kirkpatrick? Oh yeah, shit, I didn't know that we had those little temporary yellow breakers that would have prevented a vehicle from killing 15 people. I didn't know that we had those. We had those all the time. We didn't put them up because, we're a bunch of idiots. LAFD Captain Eric Scott told Newsweek, "We did experience some challenges with water pressure." Well, this word, challenges, this is what, if you work in corporate, this is how they say we fucked up. This is the polite pat yourself on the back way of saying we fucked up. It's not a failure. We responded to a challenge. We did experience some challenges, making sure the water was there in the fire hydrants that are there to fight fires. We experienced some challenges. LADWP proactively filled all available water storage tanks, including 1 million. Thanks for telling us what you did do. How the hell did fire hydrants run dry? Tell us what you didn't do that led to that catastrophic problem. However, water availability was impacted at higher elevations, which affected some fire hydrants due to a limited replenishment of water tanks in those areas. This is what you call the word salad gibberish to cover up the fact that you fucked up and people are going to suffer as a result. We did water availability was impacted. You notice how it's the passive. I talk about this all the time. It's not we didn't get the water up there. It's we failed to provide the water. It's water availability was impacted at high. We don't know how it happened. It was just impacted at higher levels. It affected some fire hydrants due to limited replenishment of water tanks in those areas. The extreme demand caused a slower refill rate for these tanks, which created a challenge for our firefighting effort. There's the word again, challenge. In other words, we failed at the job that we're hired to do. The systems that are in place to respond to crises failed when there was a crisis to which they needed to respond. They're continuing to respond to the firefighters, including evacuating residents from their home. Santa Ana winds are forecast to diminish Thursday. The infrastructure that exists to answer crises failed when the time came to answer that crisis. Do you know what happens in, I don't want to say third world countries, but I'll say in developing nations when something like that happens? It doesn't look good. It's not justice that's resolved in the courts. And I'm not saying nobody should do this, period. You know what happens in, let's just say, communist type countries, totalitarian type countries? When people in positions of power fail like this, through their own negligence, they end up in jail. You know what happens in a DEI society when things like this happen? You blame climate change. Climate crisis. Who was it that I was just talking? Oh, it was about what happened in communist China. When prosecutors fail, well, in fact, it ended worse than in jail. When people fail, they end up in jail. And that's if the system protects the people, the wrongdoers, from the wrath of the people who are now suffering and dying as a result of their grotesque, egregious incompetence, policy failure, poor decision-making, and inability to do what they exist to do. We experienced some challenges getting water out of the fire hydrants that exist to put fire. Get the fuck out and go to jail now. I'm sorry. Oh, you want a trial first? Yeah. Why wasn't there water in the fire hydrants? We didn't have enough water. Why didn't you have enough water? Well, because we had a bunch of fires at the same time and the water had problems getting in. Oh, did you not know that? Well, no, we sort of knew that because the infrastructure is old and failing, and we've known that for a long time. And we've also known there's a lot of brush over there, and it increases fire risks because insurance companies have been canceling their policies for a long time. But by the way, don't worry about it. The Sacramento Delta smelt, if you can find any, they're very much appreciative of our fresh water, and Ukraine is very much appreciative of our fire hydrants, our firefighting equipment. But don't worry, that wasn't why we failed this time around. That was the connection to Trudeau and Newsom. Donating firefighting equipment to Ukraine. Do you remember what Justin Trudeau did when COVID was coming around the corner and he knew it? He donated our PPE, Canada's PPE, personal protective equipment, to China. Knowing that COVID was coming, he took 16 tons of PPE, donated it to China, and then what ended up happening, because he knew it was coming, COVID came, and it ravaged nursing homes and old people homes because they didn't have enough PPE to protect themselves. Oh, don't worry, guys. Whatever we gave to Ukraine, we didn't need because we were understaffed in the first place. We couldn't even we didn't have enough staff to man that equipment. So don't worry. It wasn't the donating it to Ukraine that was a problem. It's just that we didn't have enough people. We were understaffed. Like the Capitol building was understaffed on January 6th.